Hello, welcome to the Escape Podcast, your source for all good things in the universe movies. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Josh. Join us as we explore the vast reaches of science fiction, fantasy, action-adventure, and beyond.
Yes, beyond. We have a special episode today. What's special about it is that, it's another episode that we're doing, and that's about it. It's Tremors, the beloved B-movie classic from, what year did it come out, Josh?
1990.
From 1990.
Yep.
We don't have a whole lot of movie news or trailer talk or anything like that because we literally recorded about a week ago and just there's nothing that's caught our eye.
Yeah, we did 40 minutes worth of trailer and movie talk before the actual movie.
If that's your favorite part of the show, go listen to The Great Outdoors. You'll love it. If you don't like that part of the show, then here you go. This will be your favorite episode. Yeah, I was just thinking that maybe before we start the episode, anybody that wants to can go check out our Facebook. We have a fabulous prize. If anybody wants to leave us a review, you can see a picture of that prize on our Facebook. It is a dirty sock with a hole in it that Josh and I have both autographed.
Well, I did. It is clean. I'll give them that.
I put some dirt in there when you weren't looking.
Oh, all right. Yeah, leave us a review on our iTunes or YouTube pages, and I don't know, maybe we'll say, hey, you're the only guy who did it.
Yeah, you will be the grand sock winner.
Yeah.
So before we get started with today's main topic, Dave wanted to say a little something to everybody. So,
ladies and gentlemen, Dave.
Hey, everybody. David here. So I know I'm occasionally on this podcast co-hosting with my cohorts about talking about various things here and there every now and then. But today I am here to make a significant announcement. I have recently started to go back to school. Going into this experience, I really kind of thought maybe I could juggle school with doing other things, including the podcast. And over the last couple weeks, I've been doing online orientation. And it has proven to be a very time-consuming, much more involved process than I had anticipated. So, in saying all of that, I guess I have to let everyone know who may be listening to this that as of now, I have to leave the Escape Podcast. At least, mostly leave it. I may be able to come back, occasionally or at some point in the future, but at this point it's pretty much like I'm jumping ship because there's just no way I can do this podcast anymore. At least if my last 2 weeks of orientation is any indication as to how my schedule will be like. Now, if it turns out that's because my school doesn't actually officially start until next week. So if it turns out that this whole process is much less involved than orientation was, then I'll reevaluate and then I'll see how things are going. But for now, I have to say adios so as to not hold things up with this podcast. I don't want to be the anchor to the podcast. I want you guys to be free and to be exploring where many other podcasters have explored before. And yeah, so hopefully I'll be able to come back. But in case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
It's funny, you sound like you're got severed from the lifeline. You're drifting away.
His tether.
Space. Yeah, his tether.
His tether has been severed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you'll always be welcome back, Dave.
Yes.
Should be able to.
wow, that was kind of heavy and depressing.
All right. Well, I guess let's just get into it. You want to start us off with some trivia?
I suppose I could do that. Yeah, so today is episode 25, and we're talking about Tremors from 1990. It has an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it was directed by Ron Underwood. Now, Ron Underwood doesn't have a super impressive movie list, but the one that I noticed the most was City Slickers. He also did some episodes of Monk, Boston Legal, Heroes, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Movie stars Kevin Bacon, Fred Ward, Finn Carter, and Michael Gross. Tremors has since become a franchise. It currently has 5 movies with a 6th in development. It had a short-lived TV show that only ran for 13 episodes in 2003, with supposedly another show in the works for the Sci-Fi Network. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I actually had heard about that just a few days ago. My buddy Steve tipped me off to it. Hey, Steve. And yeah, he sent me a link and it said that it was being produced by and starring Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, I thought I heard something about Kevin Bacon's involvement with that.
And that it's a reboot show. I remember that the old TV show coming out on Sci-Fi Channel, but when I was reading up on it, it sounded like I remember it coming out and I remember thinking it was kind of neat, but then I never really saw it again. I guess they played it completely out of order and just like Sci-Fi bungled everything about it.
Kind of like what was that one, Firefly? They did that.
Sure.
All right, well, let's get into trivia. So S.S. Wilson, one of the guys who came up with the idea for the film, was working for the U.S. Navy in California in the desert. He was resting on a rock, and he said he imagined what it might be like if there was something underground that kept him from getting off the rock, and that was kind of the initial idea that got him thinking about this. For the scene in which Rhonda has to get out of her pants by the graboid that's got her, they said that they didn't have her rehearse the scene so that the response she gives when she has to take off her pants was authentic.
I can imagine that'd be scary.
Yeah. There are only 2 interior shots in the entire movie: Walter's store and Burt and Heather's basement. Every other shot is exterior. The movie didn't do so well in its theatrical run, but it did do well in the VHS sales and rentals. This is the first film from country music star Reba McEntire. The movie was originally going to have an R rating, not for violence, but for language, and several of the F-bombs had to be redubbed with other things. Michael Gross began filming this one day after the final episode of Family Ties. The scene in which the car is swallowed into the soil was originally going to be a lot longer, where BB Bash actually kicks out the front window and gets on the hood. However, the effect that was used to suck the car wouldn't work properly, so they had to redo it at nighttime and just shoot the bare minimum. The town set was built in about 2 months. It had a population of 14 people, according to the sign. Principal photography took place in Lone Pine, California. Prior to the film's release, Bacon felt that this was a career low. Supposedly, he even broke down and fell on the sidewalk screaming to his pregnant wife that he can't believe he's doing a movie about an underground worm. Val loses 3 of the 4 games of rock, paper, scissors against Earl. Some of the working titles for the film were Beneath Perfection, Dead Silence, and Land Sharks. This is the first film directed by Ron Underwood. The original poster for the movie was going to feature a picture of an actual graboid, but it was decided that it would be better to not show the actual creature and let the audience be surprised by it. Therefore, they decided to use a close-up of the tentacles with the sharp teeth for the poster.
It's a good call.
Yeah, I agree. And this is the shortest of the Tremors movies at 95 minutes.
All right. Okay. How many times do you think you've seen this movie?
I saw it a lot growing up.
Like on TV?
No, this friend of mine had it on video, and I remember watching it quite a bit, actually. So this was kind of going down memory lane for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I used to see it on TV all the time too, like on Sci-Fi Channel, or I think even like on like TNT or something. And
yeah,
kind of like similar to what we were talking about in the Great Outdoors. It seemed like they had dubbed a lot. It wasn't until I had read that you said that like it was going to be rated R for language.
Mm-hmm.
I had read that before, and then after I read that, I started paying attention to it in the movie, and I never really thought about it until I started paying attention. But like, there's a lot of funny lines that they have because of that.
Yeah. Prior to watching it for this, I think the last time I probably seen it was maybe, I don't know, 8 years ago. That would just be a rough estimate, but
okay. I feel like I probably watched it sooner than that. I think it's one of those movies that I break out every now and then.
Okay.
Now, what you said about the director was interesting. He also directed City Slickers.
Yeah, which is mostly out in the desert.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe because the two settings are so similar, there might be like some kind of like Tremors Easter egg somewhere in there.
That'd be funny.
I'd have to actually watch City Slickers to look for that. I don't think I've ever seen it.
Really?
I may have seen parts of it on TV.
I kind of actually like the second one better, but I think most people consider the first one better. But
literally the only thing I remember when I'm thinking of that movie is somebody gets bit on the butt by a snake.
yeah, Daniel Stern.
and they're arguing over who has to suck the poison out.
Yes, but it ends up being a cactus spike.
And that was the first movie, not the second.
I'm trying to remember which movie that exactly was. Yeah, I think that was the second movie, actually.
It had
Eugene, what's his last name? Eugene Levy? Is that his last name?
No, I was thinking of Jay Sherman, the critic. What's his name?
Oh, I don't know.
Lovitz. John Lovitz.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Who did I say?
Eugene Levy. For some reason, I was going to say that too. I don't know why.
Yeah. He was in the second one.
Anyway, back to
not
Tremors.
The first. Yeah.
The first thing I was going to ask you was how many cows does it take to be a stampede?
4.
Okay. Now that that's settled, we can move on.
Okay.
So, the main stars are Kevin Bacon plays Vale and Fred Ward plays Earl. Everybody should know who Kevin Bacon is at this point. Fred Ward might be a little more unknown. Are you familiar with him in anything else?
Not really, but I was actually going to say, I was looking up Kevin Bacon up at all the movies up until this point. I think the biggest one for him was Dirty Dancing. I don't think he really had too many big movies when this would have came out.
I don't know if it was his first movie, but I know that he was in the first Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I saw that. And I saw there was something else that he starred in, but I don't know how well it did. But I think Dirty Dancing was like the first probably big movie he was in.
I would say that probably the budget for this had to have been bigger than the first Friday the 13th. And it's funny that he thought it was a career low. I guess Friday the 13th is a much bigger movie at this point.
Yeah, possibly.
I was thinking about Fred Ward. I think he might be in the second Tremors movie as well.
Yeah, I believe he came back for the second one, but Bacon did not. And then Michael Gross has been in everything, including
he's been in all of them.
I think he's even in. Wasn't he even in the show?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah,
he's been like the one constant. I know he was in the newest movie that was available on Netflix.
And it was like Jamie Kennedy, and they like go to Africa or something.
Yeah, it's that one's a little bit harder to watch. I actually think that the series like maintains a constant quality to it. It's been a while since I've watched all of them, but the most recent one that was on Netflix was a little bit harder to watch for like the first half of it. Then after that, it kind of starts to pick up where like it gets that old feeling back a little bit.
Yeah. I think I saw the second one, but I don't remember too much about it, and I think that's the only ones I saw.
Yeah, I've enjoyed them all. I'm kind of a fan of the series. I'll have to go back and rewatch them all soon, especially if they're making that new show. That kind of has me excited a little bit. As far as Fred Ward goes, outside of the Tremors series, I think I saw him in a movie. It was like an HBO original movie from like 1991 or something. And I think it was called Cast a Deadly Spell.
Okay.
And it had a pretty interesting premise. He was like a detective, like a noir.
Mm-hmm.
This world that they lived in, like people would practice like magic and stuff, and it was like a normal thing. And he's like the only one in the movie that didn't, just because he chose not to. And it had kind of a kind of like a Lovecraft theme to it.
Okay.
It was interesting. If you can find it, you might want to check it out. The special effects are pretty decent for an HBO movie from the 90s. Yeah, but he was pretty good in this. I enjoyed both him and Kevin Bacon. I thought they played their parts pretty perfect. They were handymen in the town.
Yeah, for being handyman. Did you notice how poorly Kevin Bacon was using the hammer at the beginning to nail down the barbed wire? Like it was like left, right, left, right, left, right. Like he never hit it.
Well, something tells me that they said they were handymen more than they were handymen.
Yeah, I mean, I think they had to be kind of a jack of all trade because there was so little in that town. You really couldn't hold down one. They were really just doing like odd jobs for people. Yeah.
Even were offered beer as payment.
Yeah, for the 12 other people in their town.
Yeah, and we'll get to that in a second. They bump into the college girl, Rhonda, as she's out in the desert. She's there to take seismograph readings for the local university or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know what university that would be, but I thought it was kind of funny that they tried to make her like look dumpy and unattractive, pretty much by just making her dress a little dorky.
Okay.
And they put like that sunscreen goop stuff on her nose.
Right.
Like that, like when you give an attractive girl glasses and it's supposed to make her ugly or something. I just thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
That's just something they do every now and then. I'm sure everybody's seen an example of that.
Yeah.
There's a kind of a theme to this movie. And I don't know if you caught it. They mention it over and over again. Like we need a plan, come up with a plan. Even, the worms at one point were coming up with plans.
Right. Yep.
And I feel like that theme isn't as much of a theme as it is kind of a joke, because there's a punchline to it. And the punchline is that out of everybody in the movie, there were only two people that had planned for everything, but they weren't ready for this.
Who would be that?
Burt and Heather.
Okay, yeah.
Like, they were ready for anything. And then, the one thing that they didn't even think of was underground monsters. How could they?
Yeah. This is a movie I would consider like a diet horror. It's
Horror light?
a light horror, yeah. It's it's a light premise. It's pretty easy to follow, pretty easy to understand, and it's not overly graphic.
I would say that it is a horror movie made in classic B horror, like 50s style almost.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were trying a little harder though to have good effects. I'm not saying like,
oh yeah, the special effects were great. I've seen plenty of the movies where like aliens will come invade or something's coming, some outside force is coming for this town, the people in this town specifically. It's always a little town, they're always cut off from something, and the monsters or aliens or whatever are just kind of closing in, getting closer and closer. And that's really the feel that the movie has for me. It's just a callback to those style of movies.
Yeah, I can see that.
So every time Vale and Earl try to leave the town, I noticed they find dead people.
Well, I mean, with such a small town, I guess it's you know everybody, so I guess it's pretty easy to, like the one guy. I mean, it was a good thing that his little shack was right off the major road.
Yeah, it's just it was almost amusing in a way, because like they tried 3 different times, and every single time they just find like a new dead person along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the size of this town real quick, since we're bringing it up anyway.
Okay.
Why is anybody out there?
Yeah, I think by the time you get to the 4th or so movie, or maybe the 5th, it's like it takes place in the 17 or 1800s or something.
So the first one is this one. The second one takes place south of the border, I believe, throughout Mexico.
Okay.
The third one, I can't remember exactly where it takes place. It might be Perfection, but the fourth one for sure is the one where they go back in time, and it's like the late 1800s. It's almost like a Western movie.
Yeah.
And then the fifth one is that.
Well, yeah, but what I was getting at is, I mean, obviously this kind of, if you watch that movie, it would kind of enrich this movie or kind of explain that. But I guess you're supposed to find out there's like a gold rush or
they mentioned that
they
there's
find. So like maybe back in the day they, started settling this area to.
That makes sense, but
they didn't really mention it or go into it too much.
When your town gets down to population of 14, like, how does anybody make any money?
I didn't even see a gas station. I was like, how are they getting gas for these cars?
Unless there was some gas behind like Walter's store, but then like there's Walter's store. Like, how is he even making any money? And how often does he get deliveries for all those supplies?
Yeah, I noticed he was basically ordering things, and basically they would come in. He was like everything. He was like the local store. He was the grocery store. He was the hardware store. He was the post office. He had the phone. He had it looked like where like a little cafe or something, like there was like where he was getting like serving food, I thought too.
There were only 2 people in the movie that it kind of made sense for them to live out there, and that would have been Burt and Heather.
Yeah.
Because they were kind of isolationists. They're what today would people refer to as a doomsday prepper.
Yeah.
Pretty much like building a bunker out in the middle of the desert. They wanted to be isolated and away from everything and loaded up on supplies and weapons just in case the end was near. So that made sense that they were out there, but everybody else, like, I didn't see the point. Like the woman and her daughter, why were they out there? Like, move somewhere closer to a city.
Because it's perfect, man. It's
perfection. Okay. Yeah. How did they get Earl off of the electrical tower?
I don't know, but I was going to say concerning that, I thought it was kind of a cool way to build up that this guy basically climbed up there to get away from something and was so scared that he basically died up there of hunger and thirst. I just thought that was a subtle but clever way to emphasize that he was scared out of his mind.
Yeah, like you said with the posters, like they did a good job at hiding the monsters.
Yeah.
And building up a mystery.
But yeah, how they got him down, I don't know. My guess would be to have someone climb up a rope, loop it up above him over like one of the things, tie him to it, and then have them shimmy him down like that.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking like they couldn't have tossed him down because he would have broken apart.
Bones, and then you couldn't
Yeah.
do an autopsy. And
Right, yeah. There was that farm right outside of town with like the sheep.
Mhm.
And that also struck me as odd for being out in the middle of the desert. I'm not sure how well sheep would fare in the hot desert with little vegetation. I know he was growing some stuff there,
yeah,
but it just seemed like I guess somebody has to grow stuff somewhere. So my hat's off to him, even though he's dead now. That he was able to do that.
I don't know about you, but I thought they did logical things. Like they had their characters have common sense.
Yeah.
Like, okay, when they thought it
made
was a
him-
serial killer, when they tell the road workers, like, get out of here, there's someone, one guy actually goes and grabs a crowbar. Earl, when the truck gets when they find those guys are dead, he actually grabs a gun and he's like getting it ready. Kevin Bacon actually starts shooting at it at one point. Like, sometimes you'll see in other movies where they'll have a gun or they'll have this, and you think, shoot it, do something. He actually does it. He actually just starts shooting at it.
Yeah, they made the characters smart, but not too smart. They had them like right in that sweet spot where they're smart enough to figure certain things out, but they're not, super geniuses where they explain everything to themselves.
Yeah, that was another thing I thought was pretty cool is they didn't go overkill with the explanations. Like it was pretty simple to follow when she like basically says, when they find it, she's like, oh, these like prongs or whatever on it, this is how it pushes itself through the dirt.
And that made sense.
Yeah, and they don't have eyes. They listen for vibrations and things like that, and
they come to logical conclusions that somebody with common sense would be able to put together.
Yeah, that basically, it can't get us on rocks or anything really high above, and just like it's really easy explanations. They don't go overkill with it. Yeah. It's just,
and they even show like them messing up a little bit at first, or just observing what's happening and then coming to the conclusion instead of just blurting it out.
Yeah.
I since this is kind of a horror movie, I was interested in what the body count would be. So I kind of kept track. I had it at 8.
Yeah, actually it is 8.
Okay.
I read that.
Where's that in the trivia? I missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I actually was going to mention it, but then I just was like left it out. So I can say it now. The body count is 8.
Now you also said in the trivia that Kevin Bacon actually won a round of paper, rock, scissors, but I don't remember that happening.
No, I said however many he lost, and I already forgot it.
Well, he lost. Well, I didn't keep track of all of them, but I thought he had won one of them, is what you said.
I don't remember what I said. I really don't.
I was trying to keep track of it because I noticed like the first 2 times that it happened, it was kind of funny because as far as I remembered, he lost every time, and it seemed like he always picked paper, and Fred Ward always picked scissors.
I didn't catch that.
I stopped paying attention to it about halfway through the movie. So if anybody out there knows the paper, rock, scissors score and what they chose, let us know. The character Melvin was like a typical teenage butthead.
Yeah. He reminded me of, did you ever watch The Wonder Years?
Yes.
What was his brother's name? Wayne? Yeah. He even kind of looked like him a little bit.
Yeah, he does. Jason Hervey is the name of that actor, and he looks a little bit like him, and he acts a little bit like him. He also kind of reminded me of Chet from Weird Science, or even later on, same actor playing in Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Game over, man.
Yeah. I have a Star Trek reference.
I was going to have one too. I'm glad you brought it up, though, so go ahead with yours.
Okay. B.B. Besh, who played Carol Marcus in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, plays the doctor's husband, the one that he gets sucked down with a generator. And what I thought was interesting is that his name was Jim. So she kept saying, Jim, come on, Jim.
Okay.
Yeah.
My Star Trek reference was going to be, I believe there is an episode of Voyager, where the crew gets stranded on a planet, and as they're, searching for ways to survive, it's actually kind of a desert area, I think, too. They find these caves, and in the caves, there are these large worm-like creatures that are devouring the crew.
Huh.
That always reminded me of Tremors.
Okay.
So yours was better, though. You win.
They did a good job with taking their time showing the creature, but I thought what was really cool is when you think you see it, it's the smaller snake thing with it's got the sharp teeth and the horns. Yeah, and you think that's it, and then basically once it pops out, you get a double reveal.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that was great. I think the special effects in this movie hold up even today. Like most of them look good. There's one where it's obviously like a green screen or a rear projection.
Okay, which one was that?
That's while they're in the basement shooting one of them. There's
Oh,
just one scene of that, not the whole scene. There's one scene of that where you can see Burt like with his back to the camera as the thing is like busting through the wall.
uh-huh.
And I don't know if it's when it opens up its mouth and the little tentacles come out, or if when it actually does get through the wall. But like you can tell it's like a rear projection. Other than that, like everything else looks good. I think actually some of them were hand puppets.
I was actually going to say, yeah, that was probably because it was a hand puppet to move those smaller ones.
Yeah, they did a great job with that. Even like the smaller ones, like they don't look perfect. You can tell like it's a rubber or foam or whatever, but like
Yeah.
the way they got it to move around and open its mouth and just let the slime on it and everything just looked good.
Yeah.
I'd rather see that than CG.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was funny that he says, for all you know, they could fly. And then at one point when I think when he gets it to run off the cliff, he actually says, "Can you fly?" And what's funny, because didn't like in the third or something movie,
Yeah, I
they kind
actually
of
had
fly.
that as a note. I thought I'd noticed the same thing. For all you know, they could fly, and then in the third one they do.
Yeah.
Well,
Funny.
flying is kind of a generous word. They produce gas and they shoot
Okay.
off like a jet, and they have kind of like fins, so they kind of like glide around in the air.
Oh, okay. All right.
So Val and Earl sold the tentacle that they had on their truck to
Yes.
Walter for $15.
Yes.
How much would you have paid for it?
If I was Walter?
No, you.
Oh, if I was in Walter's position?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What would
I
you
mean-
do for a monster tentacle?
I don't know. I guess I'd bark like a dog.
What would you do?
Oh, Klondike bar.
Did you notice that they kept saying like how awful they smelled even while they were still alive?
Yes, they did make a lot of references to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if that was something like in that goo that seemed to always be on them.
Maybe. Yeah, like they show like it looked like almost saliva you would see on the smaller ones.
Mm-hmm. Or if for whatever reason underground smells like maybe there was sulfur in the area or something.
Could be.
The doctor, we mentioned that the doctor and the lady out there in the desert.
Yep.
So he was building a house in the desert by hand, by himself.
Yeah, they were.
So he's a doctor, an engineer, and a carpenter.
I guess so.
And why would why would he choose like this barren wasteland? in the
I'm
middle?
assuming he was retired. I assume he was basically retiring from a city. Probably they wanted to move out there, and
Yeah.
maybe he would kind of be like the local physician for a small town. And
I guess he would think it'd be fun to build his own house by hand. Then,
Yeah.
I guess you could do it.
yeah, I
It's
mean,
just,
not everyone. I mean, people have other hobbies and other kinds of interests and skills and things
Right.
besides their main profession. That's like saying a
This-
McDonald's worker can never be anything more than McDonald's worker. You know, I mean,
what's that supposed to mean?
just what I said. Like,
So yeah, I guess it's just some of the thoughts that I had while I was watching it.
okay,
I did think it was funny that the doctor said, "I'm dead. Let's put this stuff up in the morning," and then he dies.
I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah, that was like the last thing he said right before the attack. That scene actually, I don't know if I can pinpoint exactly why, but it reminded me a lot of the T-Rex scene from Jurassic Park,
Okay,
and it reminded me a little bit of Jaws.
okay.
You didn't catch that at all? You didn't get any of that same feeling?
When she's in the car, like locking the doors and stuff, and it's
Sure.
maybe a little bit. I could see Jurassic Park a little bit. I mean, only because you said that,
Uh-huh.
and it's at night. I don't know.
Yeah, just something about it. Just a giant monster attacking a couple in a car, and the car kind of gets destroyed, I guess. There's kind of the thing with the headlights too, and it reminded me of them flashing the light in the T-Rex's eyes, or when you're
Yeah.
watching it from the other Jeep's perspective, and you can see the light shining around. My next note was about Burt and Heather.
Oh, good. So is mine.
Yeah, go ahead with yours.
So Burt is basically like a exaggerated version of my father-in-law.
Okay.
He is he was in, let's see, he's in the National Guard. He was in the Air Force. And he works for a bank that's been robbed several times. So he's real big into guns, and he's really big into being prepared. He's that type of guy that has like he basically owns the Gander Mountain and Cabela's store, everything like fleeces and boots and everything he's got in his car, like extra, coats all the time in case he ever breaks down. And
He's a hunter.
Oh yeah, he's a hunter. He's a member of the NRA. So I remember one time you go to his house and there's just guns everywhere. There's boxes of ammunition just laying around on the kitchen table on the counter. And I remember one time I got in the car with him and he told me, right now there are 5 guns. There was one on him. There was one in the glove box in front of me. There was one in the center console. There was one in the trunk. And there was one other one somewhere. There was 5 guns right there within 5 feet from me.
Wow.
Yeah, he's really big on it. And like you go into, I remember we had to check his mail one time when he was doing something in like the bedroom. There's a rifle rack in his bedroom. There's a autographed thing from what's his face? What's his name? Charlton Heston in his bathroom. Because Charlton Heston was huge in the NRA and all that stuff. So he's got a letter of appreciation signed by Charlton Heston in his bathroom, framed. Just guns and ammunition everywhere. And like I said, but it's not just that, it's also just like how prepared he is with like,
yeah. I was expecting you to say like the mailbox was booby trapped. You had to open it a certain way.
Yeah. No, but
and also it'd be great if that Charlton Heston picture, like it was a picture of him as Moses from the 10 Commandments, but he replaced the tablets with like shotguns.
Yeah, that would be good. But no, he I think one time I even had sent him just a clip of that shot where you see him in the basement. And I basically said like, yeah, this is you, basically, more or less.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Now you know what you have to do. Next time you see him, you're going to have to ask him what he would do in case of giant worm attack.
All right. I'll find out.
And then we'll know. We'll know how Burt could have prepared for that.
All right. Yeah.
So yeah, speaking of Burt and Heather and them being prepared in their basement and everything, what exactly was that thing that she turned on? Do you know what that was?
I don't, but I've seen that in other movies, the thing that like shook.
Yeah, it looked like it had almost like some kind of like sand compound in it. And then I think she put like empty shells in it, like bullets.
Yeah, I should know this.
Grinding it to recycle
I should know this because of him, but I don't. I'm sorry.
Well, if anybody knows what that thing is, let us know. Send us an email. Tell us we're stupid.
Yeah. Because
I'd really like to know. I was curious. How big would you say that those worms are? I was looking at the one that crashed into like the
wall.
Yeah, crashed into the wall. And when Kevin Bacon finds the butt end of it, it looked like maybe it had to have been at least 50 to 60 feet.
Hold on. I would guess maybe 40 feet. But that's only because I'm thinking, okay, the truck I drive at work is I think that's about 20 feet.
Uh-huh.
So to me, it almost looks like 2 of those trucks back to back.
Okay. It's a pretty big worm.
Yeah.
It's then after that, they find that one that crashes into the wall that they start trying to figure out like what's going on. Mm-hmm. They come up with several theories. They say some kind of mutation, something the government's been working on as a surprise for the Russians. The college girl, what's her name?
Rhonda.
Yeah. Rhonda says that maybe they're not in the fossil record, so maybe they predate it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Fred Ward says his bet is on they come from outer space. Do you have any theories on what they were? Because they don't really answer that in the movie. They kind of do the same thing that they did in like Cloverfield, where like they come up with all these ideas of what it could be.
Yeah.
And then just leave it at that.
Well, I would think they were just some animal that we don't know about or didn't know about up until that point.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's as simple as that. I believe there's things out there that we don't exactly know about. I'm not saying necessarily Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot, but I think there's definitely some things, I've heard of stories where they've gone to like rainforest and found bugs and birds and crazy stuff that we've never seen.
An unknown creature that's always existed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why? What do you think?
I was actually I used to think the same as you, that they were just something that hadn't been discovered yet. Mm-hmm. But I think it would be more fun to go with stick with that 50s B movie theory of mine, and go with that they started off as like really small slugs or something that came out of a crashed meteor.
Yeah, sure,
why not?
That reminds me of. Did you ever see the movie?
Yes,
man, it's an '80s movie.
Yes.
Shut up. Night of the Creeps.
Yes.
Because like basically it was like some alien released some canister and it crash landed on Earth and it hatched these slugs that went into people's bodies and turned them into zombies. Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
like
there's
almost-
also like a serial killer on the loose who'd come back to life and all sorts of crazy stuff. That's a fun movie. It's a fun B movie.
almost like maybe they were something that some alien.
Slither heavily borrowed from that.
Yeah, for sure.
And as far as them being killer worms, you were saying unknown creatures. There's one called the Mongolian death worm. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm-mm.
There's supposedly some kind of creature out there called the Mongolian death worm. They haven't been proven to exist, but people have looked for them. And then as far as movies about killer worms go, this is probably the best one there is out of two.
Okay.
That I'm aware of. Not since Squirm have we seen such a great movie about killer worms.
I think I've heard of Squirm.
Yeah, Squirm is it's something. I wouldn't call it a great movie.
Okay. This movie does pretty well. It mixes like action, horror, and comedy. Even Brittany, my wife, said she thought it was a lot funnier than she expected it to be, and you think it was going to be like this bloody horror movie, but she said, not that she likes this movie or anything,
There's
but like it
gore,
was
but it's not like
over
it's not like
excessive.
human gore or anything like that. There's a little bit of that.
Yeah.
For the most part, it's exploded worm guts and like they're orange, like this really weird color.
It's like soup.
Yeah, like tomato soupish.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not bad if you're kind of grossed out by things. You'll be grossed out a little bit by this, but like it's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Really, the worst thing, like they were right. The worst thing about the movie is the swearing. Like if it weren't for that, it'd be PG-13 for sure.
Yeah.
And it is, but yeah, it's not bad as far as being scary or anything. And it does have a certain brand of comedy. Like it's not slapstick. I don't know how to describe the comedy in it. It's real dry.
Well, I think the music also helps set that tone of, like that harmonica westerny sound.
That gives
it keeps like a light tone to it.
Yeah, it's very well written. I'm surprised that the people that made this didn't go on to make also like other great stuff. Like this was their best thing that they did.
So why does the pogo stick not fall over?
That's
like, I mean, it was just dramatic effect. I know. Basically, it just like she's bouncing on it, and all of a sudden, like he pulls her off of it, and it just stands there. And then all of a sudden, it gets pulled down. I mean, again, it's just for dramatic effect, but like it's kind of goofy when you think about it.
It is extremely goofy. Like I knew you were going to bring that up. That's the one that I said earlier. We're going to have the same note on.
Oh, really? That's it?
Yeah. It's hilarious because like they can kind of see. It's really neat how they do like the movement for the worms in this movie. They had to have probably had air tubes under the ground or something. They'd have just a little spurt of dust fly up in the air.
Like almost like they were like whales or something.
And every so often. So you could kind of see what direction they were going in. You could tell it was going after this little kid on a pogo stick because they can sense the vibrations.
Yeah, I mean, you could also see sometimes like the car shake as they were going under the car, or
if it was real close to the surface, you'd see like the ground kind of like arch
like up and then down.
Yeah, almost like a wave.
Yeah,
they really are similar. Like it's funny that they were going to call it land sharks. That would have been a horrible name. But, they basically are land sharks. It's similar to a whale when you see like the dust fly up. They even make those kind of noises too, like it's breathing. So Kevin Bacon tackles this kid to save it, and like a second later, the pogo stick gets sucked down, but it never falls over or anything, even though Kevin Bacon just forced that kid off of it.
By the way, do you know who that girl is?
No. She
was the girl in Jurassic Park.
No way.
The blonde girl, that was her.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that was Richard Attenborough's niece. Or I'm sorry, granddaughter. That's right. That was his grandkids.
Wow.
Lex. She was the computer hacker girl.
You just blew my mind.
That's her. So like the stupid jerk kid that kept the punk kid, yeah, exactly. So I think it's funny he climbed up a pole to get away from it, like, and then later though when he says, "Hey, what are you guys doing up on the roof?" and then they go, get up on the roof. He's like, "No way!" And then like it comes for him and then he jumps up on the roof. But like, okay, you already climbed the pole to get away from it. One, why would you even ask why they're on the roof? And two, like, why would you refuse to get on the roof? Like that was lame or something.
Yeah, that's a good observation.
It was just kind of silly writing, like, no way, man. Oh.
Hold on one sec.
Okay.
I might keep that in. So, yeah, no, that's a good observation because you would think that he would really ask why. I guess maybe one explanation, possible excuse for him is maybe he thought if you're inside, you're safe.
Maybe. Did you ever watch Family Ties?
Yeah.
I remember Michael Gross from that, and it's funny. He in that show he was like really soft-spoken, easygoing guy. It's just funny. Yeah, because he was supposed to be like
that is funny. I didn't even think of that. Like in that show, like him and the wife were both kind of like hippies. They even show it like the pictures as they like met each other. They're both wearing like the hippie garb and stuff with like the bandanas and that.
Right.
And then in this, like he's just like super opposite. He's like wound up real tight, paranoid about everything. Yeah. Ready to blow anything away at the.
Yeah, it was just funny.
Yeah, that's definitely a dramatic difference in character right there.
I actually. One of my favorite shots from the movie is the worm crashes through their wall, and like you know they already are kind of like real big into their guns and stuff, so they start shooting it, and like you see it's not really having an effect, but then they aren't showing that one wall. They're just showing them standing there, but you don't see that one wall behind them, and then they pan over and you see like the wall of guns, and they just like I love how they're just like grabbing gun, shooting it, grab another set of guns, shoot it, and like just going from gun to gun to gun. I just thought that was hilarious. Like just okay, let's keep trying stuff. Like it's like they just wanted an excuse to have like he was like loving it once it happened. He like wanted to have something to fight. Like
he's at the same time terrified and excited.
Yeah, either this guy he was like in a war and he misses combat so much that he wants to any excuse to have to get to do it again, or it's like he never got to go to war and he feels like he missed out. I'm leaning more toward that he was actually maybe had served in a war, but
I'm gonna lean the other way that like for whatever reason, like maybe he had a medical issue at the time and he missed out.
Or maybe there just wasn't a war when he was serving in the.
He was waiting. He was in the military, but he actually never got to see any action because there's nothing going on while he was in
exactly.
There.
But
or
regardless,
he got stationed somewhere dumb.
Yeah, regardless though, he was loving this. Like just anything to fire these guns, and I just love how he was so prepared for everything.
It took a lot to take that thing out too.
Yeah, that was kind of cool too. That it did take so much. Like it's cool. The head of it did look like almost like tusk. Like it looked like it had like an exoskeleton, almost like some of those like what do they call it? Like it's some kind of beetle where it almost has like a rhinoceros horn.
Yeah.
I know. It just had like that thick, almost like triceratops head skull.
The front of it was definitely like a big beak or something like that. Yeah, it was definitely tough. The rest of it was kind of blobby, but like wow.
Yeah. But that's the part that's coming up under the ground. That was pretty much be the only part of it exposed. So I guess that would be the part.
Like, why didn't it run and escape? Do you think that maybe once it was kind of out of the dirt, it was just kind of stuck there?
Maybe, because I assume it would almost like have to dive, like the way a dolphin would like go up and then back down into the water. I assume it couldn't go back down into the concrete because
they have to have a reverse because we see them going back under. Maybe it was just something about the way it crashed through the building and part of it was hanging out that it just wasn't able to. Also, it made me wonder because they did take that one out, but it did take quite a bit to take it out, and it did do some damage. Do you think that they could have survived at Burt's?
I don't see. I mean, they kind of show that it was started to test buildings and start to rip the foundation out.
Well, the one for sure was smarter than the others.
Yeah, I was. It's funny. Here's another Star Trek reference. I almost feel like there was almost like the Borg collective of what one learns, the others somehow learn, because it was like funny how they go fishing, if you will, with the stick of dynamite or whatever, and like the one blows up, but it's like almost like it departed knowledge before to the other one, almost like they had this ability to like know what killed the other one. Okay, I'm gonna try this now.
They did mention that they were smarter than they thought, and it seemed like they were learning.
Yeah, they dug a trap for the what was
the
that,
one in
bulldozer or whatever.
The one in particular, they called it Stumpy because
that was the one they ripped one of its tongues off, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that one, it almost kind of reminded me, like they did the same thing kind of in Gremlins, where they had one that was, in both Gremlins actually, one that was smarter than
Spike.
the rest. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Stripe.
Okay, yeah, like AVP. I know you don't really care for that movie, but there was the one that they had the predator net start to tighten on it, and it leaves those net markings. And basically, that the whole reason they did that was so that you could identify this one against all the others. You know, they marked it somehow.
I don't remember.
Yeah, basically, like the predator shoots this net, and it starts to like wind up, so the net's getting tighter and tighter, and it starts to leave markings.
So they were branding it?
Well, it's like if I threw something over you and I was pulling it tighter, the net left an imprint in its skin or in its.
But that was the purpose, was them for just to mark it. They weren't trying to capture it.
No, he was, but basically it was able to break free.
Okay.
But basically those marks stayed on it, and by doing that, it allowed us, the audience, to have some way of identifying. Oh, that's the same one from.
And that's the one that ends up making it to the end and is the smarter than the rest.
I don't remember that part, but anyway, yeah, that's all that to say that this is what they were doing with that. Yeah, that was the one that they yanked off its. Would you call them tongues? I guess it was like its grabbers, but they came out of its mouth like a tongue, but like
grabbers or graboids.
Yeah, well, even Kevin Bacon says that those things come out of its mouth like tongues. He even calls it that.
Yeah, they were.
Or describes it as
we
that.
can call them appendages, I
Sure.
suppose. I don't know. But yeah, in the movie, they end up calling the entire thing a graboid, right?
Yeah. Why does Burt's car have an alarm?
Why wouldn't Burt's car have an alarm?
But I mean, think about it. Okay, he obviously seems pretty cool with his, 13 other citizens of his town. It's just funny that like he doesn't trust them. Like
probably just Melvin. Probably for Melvin.
Yeah. I also love the line where he says, like, what are these fuses? Cannon fuses.
Yeah.
What do you use it for? What do you use it for? Cannon. Like,
yeah,
duh. It's just funny that he had yeah.
And that's the funny thing about him being the character that's the reoccurring character throughout like everything Tremors.
Mm-hmm.
It's that like he's always like that. He's like everything. He has an extreme for everything. Like why wouldn't he have a cannon? Of course he has a cannon. It's Burt.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder. Like okay, they're supposedly doing that pilot with Kevin Bacon this year. Will Burt be back in that? That actor's getting older now, but he was just in that other movie.
Yeah. Why not?
I would hope so.
Yeah,
at least been one more time. Staple. He's probably the best character in the movie anyway.
For sure.
I mean, there's some good characters, but he's on top.
Yeah.
There's a pole vaulting scene from earlier in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things I always think of when I think of this movie, and I really
they just grabbed them down from that.
Yeah. They could have done that in a way where it would have been horrible, but like this movie, we've said it repeatedly. They do things that make sense. They figure it out. It's not like they just did it right away. They spent the night out on that rock.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, hey, well, we have these things. Let's see if we can get to the next rock.
Mm-hmm.
And then just the way that scene is shot too, like you get the wide shot of them just, all in a row going from rock to rock.
Yeah.
I always thought that was really cool.
No, that is cool. I wanted to make mention let's see. So the one they killed by running into a wall. The second one, it got shot to death. The third one gets blown off, and the fourth one flies off a cliff. The one that they blow up, did you notice when they show its like guts hitting the rock, and then they pan out and you see like its body, if you will, like but all blown up? It looks like 3 or so little balls, like clearish, almost like bubbles. They look like eggs, is what I'm getting at. Did you notice that?
I'm trying to think back to it. That almost sounds like something I've seen.
Yeah, well, they didn't do anything with it that I'm aware of, but it kind of looks like eggs, like almost
you think
like
that was the intention, that they were eggs?
I don't know. It just, to me, it looked like eggs, and I thought it would have been cool if at the very end, after the credits roll, if you got a stinger where you see that blown up carcass, and then you see one of those eggs hatch,
or
and
crack.
you find out like, oh crap,
Yeah.
here we go again.
Then it would have reminded me of Critters.
Yeah, but still, I thought that would have been cool, even if they had no intention of shooting another movie, just to say like, hey, something else is going to happen here. Like this ain't over. That would have been kind of cool, I thought.
So, Walter, you recognize Walter, right?
The store guy.
Yeah,
Wasn't he in Gremlins?
he was actually. I think.
Yeah, wasn't he the one that sells Gizmo to the dad?
Yeah, I was thinking of Three Ninjas,
Oh, I've never seen that movie.
which made me wonder, like, why Tum Tum didn't come out to save him. Oh, you haven't seen it?
Uh-uh.
I had the Tum Tum joke prepared and everything. You don't even get it.
Nope. You can say it anyway. Other people might get it.
Okay, so you never saw Three Ninjas.
I know. I remember when it came out, but no, I never
I
saw
thought
it.
like everybody our age had seen that.
Nope.
How about you've seen Mighty Ducks?
Of course. Yes.
Okay, so enough with that. All right. Thinking back
Quack.
on the movie,
Quack. Quack.
Mr.
Quack.
Ducksworth.
Quack. Go Ducks.
My favorite part about Tremors is when Emilio Estevez scores all those goals.
Yeah.
I do like, going back again to how smart they are, but like not too smart. Because she was in college, she kept asking her all these questions, and Kevin Bacon's like, "What do you think it's trying to do now?" While they're all up on the roof, and she just looks at him and says, "Why do you keep asking me?"
Yeah, I was almost expecting her to say, my specialty is like earthquakes and stuff, not biology or zoology, like why would you expect I would know about these types of things,
Yeah, I thought that was very relieving. It's like, I don't have all the answers. Quit asking me.
Right. Yeah, because typically a movie around that time or before would have put the scientists, and they somehow are the go-to person on everything. Like they have an explanation or some way of.
Yeah, and then he'll get the Star Trek explanation where nobody understands a word they're saying, and then one of the dumb characters will say, "Oh, kind of like when you make coffee."
Yeah. But yeah, that was actually one of the things. I think I said that already. Did I say that already? That I like how the explanations are really simple and easy to follow. They don't go too heavy.
Did you notice that like every time they showed like the camera, like Graboid's like point of view, or like it was snaking along the ground, they would do kind of like a rattlesnake sound?
I did not pick up on that. No.
Yeah, every time the camera switches to like basically mimicking the monster's point of view, even though sometimes it's above the ground, there's a sound, and it kind of almost sounds like a rattlesnake.
Okay.
And I guess that was kind of like an audio cue that this is monster vision here. Pumpkinhead did something similar. Whenever they would show the monster, you would hear a sound kind of like the noise that cicadas make. So I do like that the movie, we've talked about this one before in other episodes, it ended the way it started.
Oh, at the cliff where he started to.
The movie that the movie opens up on the cliff with him like peeing off the cliff right at the beginning, and it's like the exact same cliff, the exact same spot where tricks the final Graboid into go flying off the cliff with the dynamite and all that, and even he brings up a stampede again. What's
funny is I guess there was an episode of SpongeBob where there's some kind of underwater worm thing, and I can't remember what episode it was or the exact context, but it's the same thing where like it's running after them and they basically are at a cliff, and ultimately it just flies off the cliff chasing SpongeBob or whoever, which is obviously a throwback to this.
Yeah, I haven't seen that episode of SpongeBob, but yeah, that's exactly what happens. So I thought that was actually a really cool way to finish off the last one. Basically scare it to running away from the explosion, I guess.
Well, I think it was already charging them. I don't think the explosion so much scared it. Because remember, he was going to try to throw it at it, and he threw it too far. It was moving too fast. I think he like basically overshot it because it was coming for them anyway.
You think like to try and propel it?
No, I don't. I just think he threw it hoping to blow it up, but he missed, and it basically did nothing.
So you think he just got lucky at them? That wasn't part of the plan?
Yeah, exactly. I think basically it was like, oh crap, this is my last bullet. Oh, I missed, but it worked out because it ran right off a cliff. Like I never took it as the dynamite did anything for him.
Well, I used to think that when he threw the dynamite behind it, he did it on purpose to kind of like the explosion would kind of force it to go faster.
I don't know, the
cliff?
expression on his face looks like he still didn't have a plan. Like, it looked like I thought he looked like crap.
Well, this most recent time that I watched it, like they had mentioned how like the sound was driving them away, like they would go in the opposite direction. So I figured he threw it behind it.
I thought they would
explode.
head towards sound typically.
No, because that's how they were able to get to the rock from off of the semi truck, the semi trailer.
Yeah.
Because the rocks were too far away, but they'd throw the dynamite, which would drive them out further, and they had time to run.
Right. So if he was trying to use the dynamite, wouldn't that confuse it on which way it wanted to go?
Well, it was already coming towards him, and if he threw it behind it, if it wanted to get away from the noise, it would just keep going in the way it went. But I assumed it just made it go faster.
Yeah, I took it as it did nothing to help him. It just but again, concerning the dynamite, wouldn't that they use sound and vibrations, wouldn't, if anything, they would go toward the dynamite sounds as opposed to away from them?
Well, I thought it caused them pain because they were so sensitive to the vibrations.
If they hinted at that, I didn't pick it up.
Huh. I thought they actually said it in the movie.
Oh.
I might be wrong, though. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
All right, people out there, let us know what happened.
Yeah.
How did the dynamite work at the end, and how did it affect the graboids, if at all?
Okay.
All these questions could win you a dirty sock.
It's clean, I tell you. It's clean. I pulled it out of the drawer. It was clean.
We have pictures of it. We'll let them be the judge on if it's clean or dirty.
All right.
So yeah, what would you? Did you have any more points you wanted to go over?
No. That's pretty much it.
I guess there were two more things that I noted here. One, it was kind of funny seeing Kevin Bacon being so shy when it came to girls, especially a girl that was perceived to be nerdy.
All right, yeah. No, I didn't think about that, but yeah, that's funny.
And then, Reba McEntire takes us out of the movie.
Oh yeah, you didn't like that?
No, I liked her in the movie. I thought she was great, but when the credits roll, it's one of her songs.
Yeah.
So, I think we both have fond memories of this movie. It's something that came on TV a lot. You said you watched it on VHS a lot.
Yeah, over a friend's house, yep.
Yeah. So, what would you grade it?
I would say I would give it a B minus.
Okay. I'm in the same neighborhood with a B.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really good movie. I'd recommend it to anybody that, just has some time and wants to see a cheesy monster movie.
Yeah, I think it's a fun movie. It's, like I said, it's not overly grotesque, so most people can pretty much probably handle at least once. It doesn't go overkill with the explanations. It's funny. It's got just enough, action to it, and it's a fun movie. I give it a B minus.
Anything else you wanted to add?
I'd like to thank everyone who's been listening and downloading and subscribing and all that. We got a few comments on YouTube, which is kind of nice to get real people. Most of the things we got originally were like spam crap.
Yeah, we get messages like, "Hey, we love your content. We think it would be better with our music. Come check us out at www.buymymusic.net."
Rip you off. Yeah. So yeah, we finally got a few real comments on YouTube. That's cool. It's nice. We got a few people following us on Twitter,
which we still don't know how to use.
Yeah, but it's not as hard as I thought it was. I'll give it that.
It's hashtag not that bad.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, if you wanted to contact us, how would you do that?
Do you want to say a couple of them, or do you want to say all of them, or?
Yeah, our Facebook page is a great way to contact us. It's just do a search for Escape Podcast 16, and you'll see our artwork.
That works.
Yep. And then Gmail is escapepodcast16@gmail.com.
Word. Oh, you want me to do one?
Yeah, now your turn.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can search for us on iTunes by searching the Escape Podcast. You can look for us on Podomatic by searching the Escape Podcast. YouTube by searching the Escape Podcast. And I think just Twitter, Escape Podcast?
Or Podcast Escape.
Sure. Pretty much, as we said before, you can find us at least on one of these things. You'll be able to get a hold of us on all the others, so we should be pretty easy to find.
Yep, stay tuned for next time when we reveal the grand winner of the Holy Sock.
Who wants that sock? Signed by us both.
Yep, just make sure you send us a message so we can sock it to you.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.
So long.
Farewell.
Bye.
No, hey, hold on a minute. Apparently, we're streaming live.
Oh, really?
Mark just told me.
Well, hey, Mark.
Wait, what the crap? How's that? I thought this was private. Poop.